Our gauntlet matches, are they all going to be no disqualification now, or are we chalking that up as a Paul Heyman masterstroke at the last second? Or because they
You know
announced
what
that, and I'm like, really? But
I'm chalking it
go.
up to stupid because it makes no damn sense. It makes zero sense. Look, we're gonna fans of the show. Skeena and I are gonna take a slight little detour just for like 2 minutes. We'll be right back on. Welcome to the Lariat Lounge, everybody. This is the home of smart takes, hard hits, real talk. I'm your host, Everson Godfrey, co-host Andrew Skeens. Skeener, we finally got a couple of days to breathe. It seems like we have been held underwater by WWE programming for what seems like a lifetime, but it's only been 4 or 5 days. How are you feeling being able to finally catch your breath for a hot second?
Oh man, I'm relishing it. It was a lot of wrestling over the 4 days we got, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And as much as I love wrestling, there's a lot to watch, and sometimes it feels like a little overkill. But yeah, we can sit back and breathe at least for a couple weeks here.
Yeah. Sometimes you get these little like lulls in between PLEs where, especially when you have like such a concentrated amount of wrestling in one weekend, you'll get maybe a week or two where you'll get some interesting storytelling beats, but it's nothing to really, write home about. And, we're going to talk about it every week anyway, because we're here. But it's nice sometimes to get a little bit of a breather, and this midweek breather that we get every week is something that I look forward to much more when we have such a jam-packed weekend. We had Friday Night Smackdown. We had I actually watched the Great American Bash as well. We're not talking about Great American Bash, but I watched it. We also had Saturday night's main event. Then we had Evolution. Then we had Raw. It's a lot to talk about, and literally a lot happened. A lot happened over the weekend, over those two PLEs. Some things that were expected, some things that were absolutely not expected, and some things that are interesting within the realm of those expected, not expected things that we will absolutely get to. Skeener, we got people here. They're sitting here in the lounge with us. Let them know how they can let their friends know how they can get VIP treatment in the Lariat Lounge.
You can check us out on Instagram. We have been gone for a week. I will tell you that Instagram told me when I logged in a few days ago that automated behavior on the account was suspected, and that they had blocked a post and locked our account for a couple days. And I'm not sure how I feel about an AI content moderation module calling me AI. I feel a little feel a certain way about that, but we're back. You can find us at the Lariat Lounge Podcast over on Instagram. You can hit us up on Gmail at the Lariat Lounge. And as always, we're coming at you every week. iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, all your favorite podcast platforms. But please reach out to us, get us involved. Tell us what you're thinking, what you're liking, what you're not liking about the show, about wrestling, about anything. Love hearing from all you all. Want everyone in the lounge.
Absolutely. So we got a lot of wrestling to talk about. So enough with the fluff. Let's get to the stuff. So Skeener, we're going to jump all around the place with this, I'm sure, because there's so much wrestling to talk about.
There's quite a bit.
There's so much wrestling to talk. But where I want to start, and I want to get your thoughts on this, because I definitely have some thoughts on this. The Seth Rollins injury, that has seemingly thrown a monkey wrench in some of the plans that WWE had going forward. I don't know if that at all impacted what we got on Monday. Part of me kind of thinks that it was, part of me kind of thinks that it wasn't, but I'm not necessarily speculating on that part so much, but another part of it I am. But before I get into the do aspect of things, what are your thoughts on that match up to the point of the injury, and what are your general thoughts on the Seth Rollins injury and what kind of impact that may have on the story going past the gauntlet match that we had on Monday and into SummerSlam and moving forward.
So, I mean, first of all, it really sucks. I think it goes without saying we're both big fans of Seth and his work, and especially what he was doing now, and kind of running Monday Night Raw with this faction that I think most of us all love. Really unfortunate timing. I liked what was going on in that match up until that point. Thought it was really gutsy, heads up, whatever you want to say for Seth to get hurt there in that moment and gut it out and get up and take LA Knight's finish and get out of the match. Whether or not that was the planned result or not, it's the result we got. Sad to see him out. Man, I just from the very first injury he had, that very first knee injury that happened and at a live event, I have always cringed anytime Seth has done flips when he lands, because I'm like, you get that PTSD almost. You're like, oh no, it's going to happen again. And I just, I'm not, he knows better than me about what he can do, but if he'd stop flipping, that would be fine with me. But aside from that, seems like, we don't know what the plan was. I don't know how much it altered it. I think it's a great, we're talking about silver linings on a bad thing. I think Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed have a big chance to step up and fill a void. And I think, maybe we've already talked about in the long term that you're probably trying to make Braun Breaker the superstar, the real superstar that comes out of this group. And I think, if he gets some time to be the man and step up and fill that void, there's a ready-made, conflict and clash when Seth comes back. So I think we'll get some good stuff there. And I think Braun's been doing great. And he has been expanding the character and, playing in a little more to the comedy and the personality. And some of the stuff this past Monday, I was just thinking man, I knew this guy was good, but he really does have everything.
Yeah.
And, great performance. Obviously he can do it in the ring, but I'm talking about just the character and the personality, just being around who he's been around. Seth and Heyman and Bronson Reed, a veteran too, in the past few months, seems to have really taken him from, one level to the stratosphere, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Braun Breaker is definitely the future of the heavyweight division. Not that they have divisions, but it sounds nice when you say it that way. He's definitely the future of the men's division. I think he's got all the tools. And Heyman definitely lobbed a lot of praise on him on Monday, giving him literally all the monikers of all the people who he's been with before.
Okay. Yeah, I was glad you caught on to that, because what did he do? He called him the next big thing. Yep. Obviously, Brock Lesnar called him the big dog, right?
Yep.
With and then he said it was his yard, which I took as an Undertaker reference, right?
Undertaker and Roman. That Roman did the whole his yard thing too, right?
I took it as I mean, I guess it makes more sense if you think it's a Roman reference.
It makes more sense with Roman. And
the best in the world too, right?
No, I don't think he called. I think that's the one thing he didn't do was call him the best in the world. Now, and he, like I said, he lobs a lot of praise on him, and I think it's deserved. And he also acknowledged very well and very clearly that this man is a Steiner, that he's a cut above and set apart in his pedigree. And I love the fact that even though his stage name is Braun Breaker, they're not shying away from the fact that he's a Steiner. And, that's great. That lineage lends more credibility to this character. For the people who are watching the product and don't know about the Steiners, they're going to dig through some of that, some of that vintage footage and see how awesome the Steiner brothers were. And they're going to see the epic run of Big Papa Pump. And, all these things are going to feed into this character's growth later on, particularly when he gets main event spots on big PLEs. You're going to see these video packages and these vignettes with his family lineage in it because he's got it. They're going to use it. So yeah, he's definitely the future, right? And that gauntlet match was awesome. Now, obviously, this gauntlet match came into existence because it appears that WWE is making a last minute pivot because of the apparent Seth Rollins injury. Now I have a question because it's not something that I believe I witnessed and I saw anywhere, but have we gotten any updates regarding Seth's injury?
So there was a lot of discourse in the old dirt sheets.
Okay.
What I paid attention to was, in a stroke of interesting timing, Seth started his little his podcast or his show, whatever we want to call it, and he gave a little update. And it was, he didn't really set anything in stone. He didn't say exactly what the injury was. I think, because I watched this late last night, I think what he says is something along the lines of knowing my body and knowing how knee injuries have felt in the past, that he thinks he will be out an extended period of time.
Okay.
Who knows what that means?
Okay.
Who knows if that storyline?
So let me jump in right there.
Yeah.
Let me jump in right there. I'm going to go ahead and say this now. I think this is all a work. I think every bit of this is a work. I've been thinking that it was a work from the moment it happened. Well, okay. I thought it was a work a few moments after it happened, right? Because anytime you see the match stop in such a way, right, as a wrestling fan, there's always a part of you that is genuinely concerned. We enjoy this product and we don't like to see people get injured, but we know it's a part of the business. It comes with the territory. But I had my doubts 15, 30 seconds after it happened. And I'm going to tell you why. One, WWE handles injuries a particular kind of way, right? If you've been watching the product for any extended period of time, there are certain telltale signs of a legitimate injury, right? From the standpoint of safety and also the standpoint of the production and the quality of the product, right? One thing that we always see when someone is legitimately injured and, oftentimes cannot continue, right? You'll see the dreaded X. Now, we didn't get that. And we've seen injuries happen before where maybe the X does not get thrown up, right? I've seen it happen on occasion. I know you have as well. Not seeing the X with a flag, but it wasn't a red flag. The red flag for me, Skeener, was the fact that not only did the televised product, being the cameras, never cut away from Seth whatsoever. They replayed the moment that he supposedly injured his knee multiple times during Saturday night's main event. That's something that WWE oftentimes never actually does, right? We saw it when Zoe Stark got injured. They did not train the camera on that woman as she was laying in the ring, howling in pain, right? They also did not show a single replay of that woman hurting her knee, right? Now, I remember thinking when I was pondering this, maybe I did see some replay of her hurting her knee, but then I remembered, no, this was all of the people on YouTube that put her landing on her knee awkwardly in their thumbnail because they're masochistic in some way, but not on WWE programming, right? When Zoe Stark got hurt, there were almost immediate news and updates on what that woman's injury was, right? Because she goes to a quote unquote local medical facility, right? And the dirt sheet people have access to it quickly, right? WWE will put out some kind of statement, but the news will be out there and we'll typically get some kind of time frame. We got none of that. You know what I'm saying? We got absolutely none of that. All of that is a bit suspicious, okay? It's a bit suspicious. Now, on top of that, I'm curious as to why CM Punk would be the person that you put over in the gauntlet match, right? The current world champion is Gunther. You're going to have Gunther versus Punk at SummerSlam. According to Seth on his podcast, which, by the way, I didn't even know he had, but I'm going to listen.
It just started.
I'm going to listen because I love Seth Rollins, and I'm sure he has some interesting things to say. But according to him, in his own words, because he knows his body and how knee injuries have been in the past, this means this guy has not seen a medical professional.
Well, he did say that they were down there in Birmingham where their guy, Dr. James Andrews, the famous in the world of wrestling,
Sure.
Dr. James Andrews, that he went down there and they did some imaging, but because of the amount of something or other, that it wasn't conclusive, which I know is just going to feed your theory here, but he did mention that he had.
And to be fair, they mentioned that on programming as well, right? With that he was going to be in Birmingham for he went to Evolution to see his wife perform, and then he went to Birmingham to see the doctor. So they mentioned that, right? But nothing conclusive. Indeterminate amount of time. I think Seth Rollins is going to be out until SummerSlam. And I think if the story would make more sense, if he's out till SummerSlam, Punk beats Gunther for the world title, Seth cashes in and takes the title off of Punk. Because as long as Seth has breath in his lungs, Punk will never be champion while he's still in the company. And that's not to say that he's literally never going to be champion, but, storyline wise. But it makes you wonder, because there's just so many things that have just pointed to the direction of this not being as legitimate as we initially thought coming out of Saturday night's main event. But what do you think? Because I have the feeling that and mind you, I'm speculating here, folks, but if this is a work, right? The angles that this could lead to, not just with Seth and Punk, right? But even Seth and Braun, and something that we spoke about almost maybe 4 episodes ago that I was just thinking about when you were talking about Braun Breaker earlier. But could this be a work?
Could it? Yes. So here's the thing. I'm normally a big, it's a work guy. Normally I fall way too much into that. I was the guy that said Dean Ambrose leaving was a work and R-Truth getting fired was a work. And so I'm normally way on that side. This, I actually feel that he's hurt. I want to go back because I was looking something up, as I typically do. Want to give some clarification. Seth has not started a show. I didn't look enough into this. I saw a logo for the Seth Rollins show and thought he was starting something.
Gotcha.
He guest hosted the Rich Eisen show. Okay. So Rich Eisen, famous sports talking head, I guess he was out, and Seth did his entire show this Wednesday. This Wednesday of this week when this came out. So not going to be an ongoing thing, but he did it this week. And I'll give you the quote. He was talking about going to Andrews in Birmingham, and he said, there was some imaging. It was a little too swollen, so we're going to take another look, hopefully in a week or two here in LA, try to get some sort of firm diagnosis, and we can go from there. I'm not a doctor. I only know my body and what I feel. What I feel is that this is going to be me out for an extended period of time. And then I think in the post show of Evolution, someone asked Triple H about it, and he said something like, doesn't look good or something.
Yeah.
If I remember right. But I think he's hurt. I can get on board with they are going to oversell the seriousness and amount of time in order to make his surprise return, be it a cash in or just to cost Punk a surprise. That part I'm pretty firmly on board with. And maybe that's just me hoping that this guy that has had serious knee injuries that does not have another one. That's probably part of it. But yeah, I can get on board with that. And why wouldn't you do that in this situation when he has the briefcase? Why wouldn't you go ahead and set that moment up? So I'm with you for that one. I do think he hurt himself, though.
And you know what? I guess I could get behind that a bit, right? That he may have sustained some kind of injury there, and they may be downplaying or they may be playing up the severity, but they haven't played up any severity.
Well, here I will say this, that you talked about showing replays and stuff. They did go back and show replays of Liv Morgan hurting her shoulder, because that's like been our most recent one, right?
Okay, so
like they showed a replay the next week and was like, look, here's where it is. Here's where she hurt her shoulder. I think it's probably like the gruesomeness of it. Like if it's more
you may be
gruesome, they're
right.
not going to show it. But if it's, just an impact and you can't really see anything
That's
popping
true.
or dangling out of place, they're going to go ahead and show it.
Yeah, that's actually true. I did forget about that. Maybe it is
That's okay.
legitimate.
There's so much wrestling, we're not all going to remember everything. So.
No, that's true. And I mean, maybe it is legitimate, and maybe some of this, like you said earlier, which I can agree with, right? Maybe this is a bit of copium from me that I would like for this to be a work, because I don't want to see Seth injured and out for an extended period of time. Like that just blows beyond compare.
Yeah, especially right now.
Yeah, especially right now that he's getting such a front and center push, right?
So here's one thing I'd like to dispel, and we don't get into. I don't love talking about the online rumors and the dirt sheet rumors, but someone somewhere on the internet it started floating around that like, oh well, they knew Seth had a minor knee injury, so they were going to work in this major injury angle and go from there, which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, because if he has a minor knee injury, they're not going to have him go out there and do a flip and land on his knee and risk making it a real major knee injury. I just had to get that out there, because
I heard that too.
People don't even think.
Well, no, I heard that too. And to be fair, Skeens, like I hear what you're saying, but I also thought there could be some legitimacy to that. We've seen that in wrestling before, where someone has a minor injury. In fact, Seth Rollins, a couple years ago, right? WrestleMania 40, he had a back injury, a legitimate back injury, right? And he still went out there and wrestled that match, right? He still went out there and wrestled that match, and he took time off after that to let his back heal up. Now, if you're trying to work this into an angle, right? And this man knows his body, he knows what he can do. You know what I'm saying? Then, yeah, maybe he does go out there and he does this flip. He knows he can do. You know what I'm saying? He knows he can do, and then he sells up his injury.
So not. I've seen him hurt himself multiple times doing it.
Well, no, and I'm not saying
this time even if we exclude this time, I've seen him hurt himself.
True, but like, here's the thing: when he injured himself trying to flip off the top rope to do that buckle bomb, right? That was like the first knee injury, right?
The first one.
But that was the first one. He didn't have an injury ahead of time, right? He hurt himself doing the job, right? Now, I get what you're saying, but I think what you're alluding to is this idea. I think what you're alluding to, though, is this idea that, like, you don't really know where your body's limit is, but he's not going to know that. So he can only go by what it is that he believes he knows he can do, right?
Well, but there's also a doctor that's probably going to tell him, hey, no, if your knee's kind of hurt, don't go out there and do stuff that could hurt it way more.
True, but there could also be a doctor that says, yeah, you're fine to do that. I mean, it could go either way.
A good doctor.
This is all, listen. Listen, would you say that the doctor was a bad doctor, the one that told Cody Rhodes that he could go out there and wrestle with his red pec?
Well, but I think that's a different situation, because Cody basically said the doctors told him it's already as torn as it's going to get.
Right, but the doctor didn't tell him you're fine to go out there and wrestle. They advised him against it. But they said you can't hurt it any worse. Like that's not an advocating to go do the job. That's just telling you what the further prognosis could be if you go out there and do this. Right now, I get what you're saying, though. So I'm not trying to like shoot it down. I'm just saying that like that sword could cut either way. You know what I mean? And we've seen it before. We've seen it before in wrestling. So it could be, right?
I say no work. No work. That's my final answer.
I think after our conversation, I would like to lean more along the lines of maybe like a worked shoot. That maybe there is some legitimacy to this and that they're using this to further a story, right?
I mean, that's where I'm at too. I think he's hurt. but I think they're going to maybe overplay the possible length of time he's out to make it more surprising when he shows back up.
Oh, yeah. And listen, I mentioned this earlier. I'll say this quickly because we got so much stuff to talk about. But like, I thought that it would be a really interesting angle, right? Like, let's say, for the sake of this conversation, that for storyline perspective, whether it has truth to it or not, SummerSlam comes around, Seth Rollins comes back and cashes in, right? Wins the world title. Wouldn't it be interesting if what we've been talking about with Braun Breaker, Braun being the future, right? And we spoke about this maybe like 4 episodes ago, maybe. I'm guessing. But we talked about this idea that sometimes it seems like sometimes it seems like Seth and Paul know what the plan is and Braun doesn't. And Braun is used to, meet the ends of the faction, which they still don't have a name. But he gets utilized in the way that he gets utilized. And it's not saying that they're using him. He's there to be used, right? But let's say Seth comes back, SummerSlam, boom, cashes in, right? And aside from Bronson, right, everybody's in on it except Breaker, right? And Breaker's like, I thought you were injured. And Seth's like, no, I had a plan. You know what I mean? It's like, you just got to trust the process.
I dig that. I see exactly where you're going. I would dig that.
You know what I'm saying? And Braun's like, no, I don't particularly like being left in the dark like this. And then maybe Seth's along the lines of, or maybe it comes from Paul in a situation where it's like, hey man, just stay in your lane. Like,
yeah,
you're
I
going to
think
go
that's
far.
kind of how we both see this eventually going, like this faction and how Braun breaks away from it. I just don't know when they're going to do it.
Sure, of course.
And a lot of it's going to depend on, I think, how much of this injury is real, not real. But again, through storytelling or through, I don't want to say the injury was luck, but we're in a spot where we don't know what's going to happen, which is, as we've talked about, one of our favorite spots to be as wrestling fans. So they've done it again.
Right out of my mouth.
Maybe not through their own design, but here we are again.
And listen, you took the words right out of my mouth. What a joy it is to be in a time of professional wrestling where we actually question this. You know what I mean? Like, the stories have been told in a way that enrapture us so much that when something like this goes down, we're legitimately having a real conversation about whether or not this is part of a storyline or not. When before we didn't really question a whole lot because it was very easy to tell what was part of not well-written stories and when somebody got injured. So, if there is a legitimate injury there, Godspeed to Mr. Lopez. And, I hope he gets well soon. We love seeing you on TV and, playing the character that you're playing. And if you're working us, in the words of the host of Lariat Lounge, work me. I want to be worked. So, keep up the good work. Get well soon. Yeah. Where would you like to go next, Skeener? Because I feel like this is like a random lottery of great things to talk about over a long weekend of wrestling. I have so many things popping in my head right now of like, ooh, let's talk about that moment too.
Well, let's hit what I think's the big one. And we can segue right from, we're talking about getting worked and buying things in wrestling. We were not alone. We bought hook, line, and sinker for the past, through 2, 3, 4 weeks. Every Smackdown, Naomi would come out and talk about, I'm going to get you Jade, I'm going to get you Tiffany Stratton.
Yep.
And we were just so blinded with when Naomi's going to cash in on Jade that I know I didn't. I know we haven't mentioned it on the show, that we had no thought that Naomi is going to cash in for the Women's World Championship.
We did not proceed with caution.
And it created an all-time moment. I think up there with, I'd say it's the second best cash in, maybe. I put it behind Seth still, but it's right there with the very first one for me in terms of how good it was, because it just so unexpected and came after, or I guess in the middle of, a fantastic match between Io and Rhea, like two of the best at the top of their game. But, as good as that was, that the Naomi moment overshadows it just because nobody saw it coming.
Now, are you
And
saying, Skeener?
what a
Are
moment
you
it
saying,
was.
Skeener, that we didn't proceed with caution there?
We did not. No, we should have. We were told. We were told to proceed with caution. But yeah, what a moment. So
Listen,
how did you think about that?
I
Or what
I
did you think about that?
I thought that the cash in was brilliant. Sometimes working to a trope can get played out and tired. And then sometimes working to the trope is exactly what you need to do. Naomi catching the beatdown that she got from Jade earlier in the night set the stage perfect. And we've talked about this before in previous episodes, right? That it makes for the best cash-ins when you throw us off the scent, right? Now, obviously, Mastermind Naomi has been throwing us off the scent apparently this whole time. But, when it comes to the cash-in itself on the night, you throw off the scent by having her lose earlier in the night, right? As far as how the story goes. Because if you're hip to storytelling in WWE, you get the trope, right? But yeah, she catches his beat down from Jade in what was a fine match. But when you have such a gem of a match, and mind you, I am not somebody who believes that when we talk about Evolution 2 and we talk about what could potentially be match of the year with Io versus Rhea, that the conversation will happen without the Naomi cash-in. I think that these three things together, because I'm about to make a hot take. I just want to make sure I preface that. These three things together, to me, make for a better cash-in than the heist of the century. I say that because whenever we talk about the heist of the century, we talk about how epic of a moment that was, right? When Seth cashed in. But we barely talk about Roman versus Brock. Part of it's because we saw it a bajillion times, right? Before and after. And so maybe some of the luster
I
had
think
worn
that
off.
was their first one.
And listen, that's what I'm saying. Before or after. Before or after.
Talk about that more because they
the reason why we don't.
Match there.
And I don't disagree. But I'm saying the reason why we don't is because we saw that match a bajillion times after. And so it kind of takes away from it a bit. It doesn't take away from Seth's cash-in because it was still brilliant, right? And I think that a well-timed cash-in on its own can stand on its own too, despite what match is happening, right? I think, however, Io versus Rhea at Evolution 2, because it was the second ever Women's Evolution PLE, because their story has been told over such a long time, the fact that it is legitimate that Rhea has never beat Io in one-on-one competition. And the fact that that match was given the breadth and the gravity to extend past the four ropes, the four corners of the ring, and to get so gritty and so hardcore. And you know what I mean? Like the match was just, I know if you listen to this podcast and the fact that we're putting it out on Thursday and you follow professional wrestling, you've heard people wax poetically about this match all over the internet. So me throwing on my praise now is just more cherries on top of this, cake. But that match was incredible. It was legitimately an incredible match. And it's the epitome of what wrestling should be when stories are told very well. Naomi is so underrated when it comes to how good of a wrestler she is, but nowadays, how great of a character she is, how great her character work is, right? She is so good at what she does that the nuance of her cashing in and limping to the ring because she got her ass beat so bad by Jade, right? But seizing the opportunity to capitalize on what was arguably the match of the year, to take that title. Whenever we tell the story of Io versus Rhea, you're never going to tell that story without talking about Naomi's cash-in. And whenever you talk about Naomi's cash-in, you're never going to tell that story without talking about the match that she cashed in on and how excellent that match was. And I think that makes it different from Seth cash-in on Roman and Brock, because oftentimes, whether we agree or not, oftentimes when we talk about the heist of the century and they show the clips, they don't show the match. When people talk about the heist of the century, they don't talk about the match. They talk about the last 10 seconds of that match and how Seth ran down the aisle and cashed in. And then him standing on the stage and the fireworks going off and him swinging the belt around his head, right? That's the iconic scene. But I think when they talk about this cash in, they're going to talk about that whole match and how epic that match was. And then at the end of it, the cash in. So hot take from me maybe, but I think that Naomi's cash in is right up there with the best cash ins of all time. And that match that preceded that cash in makes for the best overall experience of a cash in that I can remember.
It's not a I can't find the adjective, but that is not an offensive take.
Okay.
I'll say that. It's not an offensive take to me. I can see that. It's not the same for me.
Sure.
Still doesn't eclipse that. I'm not sure if when I look back it will eclipse the very first cash in with Edge after the Chamber. But right now I'm putting it right there on that level.
Yeah,
which is,
no,
hey,
I hear
that's not a knock. That's a high praise.
And
but
listen,
yeah, and we can go ahead and the promo, and Naomi gets to open Raw as she should because you're coming off this giant moment. But the comfort and ease with which she is performing as this character is very notable. And
yes.
she's doing, I don't think it's a hot take to say that it's the best work of her career. And just, she gets to have that moment. She gets to sink it in, but she still gets to throw in her digs and do, oh, don't cheer now. Don't cheer now.
Yeah.
And all that hot stuff and all that great stuff and call the locker room raggedy heifers. And I think she was out there cursing, if I remember.
She cursed once.
But yeah, they're just letting her have fun and go with it. And it's been great. And we've been here for it, and we're going to be here for it. I'm just excited to see where it goes.
I'm going to tell you this. You can always tell when someone is legitimately in their bag, right? Like they know themselves. They know their character very, very well. And one of the things that I think was one of the most fortuitous situations to happen in the last 5 years on the whole was Sasha Banks and Naomi walking away from WWE when they felt like they were not being given the respect that they deserved. I think it's worked out wonderful for Mercedes. And I think that Naomi taking that time in TNA to really find herself outside of the WWE system gave her a perspective on herself, a confidence in herself to be able to step back into the WWE space and be this person that she is on screen. And the fans, like always, have legitimately loved Naomi. But there's just this aspect to her now that is so comfortable being so dastardly, right? And so villainous in an over-the-top, almost comic book way. Like her maniacal villainous cackles
yeah,
always get me. They're so over the top in the best way possible. You know what I mean? And it's like she's got this attitude about her and this sass about her that is just spot on for her personality. When she was doing that promo at the beginning of Raw, and like you alluded to, the crowd is cheering for her. And the part that I think makes it cool is the fact that the crowd knows Naomi to the extent to which she allows them to, right? As a person. But we've seen the interviews that she will do on like post PLEs when she won the Money in the Bank, and she did the post interview after the PLE with Big E. And you hear Big E talking so much about how he loves this woman and how just to see her rise and the tears in her eyes. And while she's still trying to play her character, right? But she's just so emotional about being able to be at this point in her career doing what she's doing. You have to love that. It's very endearing. And so you see her doing her character while still having these episodes of like the real her coming through. And it's really endearing. And I think the fans love that and they recognize that. So she's cutting this promo and they're cheering for her while she's simultaneously, like you said, telling her, oh, don't cheer now. Don't cheer now. And they just love to be ragged on because they love her, right? And then for me, when Rhea comes out, I had such a goosebumps feeling because Rhea Ripley is the darling of the WWE right now, right? Like, she is the top of the card, whether she's got a title or not. Io is arguably one of, if not the best all-around wrestler that they've got in the women's division right now. And it shows. There's a reason why they put the title on her and they've kept it on her for so long, right? Without even worrying about the language barrier, she can carry the division. Naomi is showing that she is a cut above because when Rhea comes out there and then Io comes in shortly after, Naomi does not feel out of place at all. She feels like she is right where she is supposed to be, right? Which is at the top of the card with the best that the company has to offer, right? But not only is she comfortable in that space, but she outshines Rhea on the microphone, right? And then when Io starts talking, Naomi's like, okay, so I don't know what you just said, but, and the crowd pops. They pop. And I just felt in the moment, I know Naomi's been here. I know she's been the champ before, right? I know that people have really taken to her character, and I know that she just cashed in and is the women's world champion. But when she said that line and the whole crowd popped, I was like, Naomi has arrived. She's legitimately arrived. There's nothing that you can say that would make me think that Naomi is not a bona fide superstar, a bona fide main eventer. And it honestly makes me wonder, what do you do with Jade now? Because I'm thinking about their story that they had, right? And you can always revisit this, right? But Jade benefited so much from having Naomi wrapped in that story. Bianca hasn't even really been here. Where do you go with that story that has the same weight to it now that Naomi has made a hasty exit, right, from that and has now entered this three-way thing with Rhea and Io, which honestly is the hottest thing right now in the women's division. And now you've added Naomi and it's freaking nuclear hot. It's a great place for WWE to be in, to have to figure out what do you do with so many hot commodities. But man, tell me that it did not feel in that moment, Skeens, like Naomi has literally arrived on the sun now.
For sure. And she's coming off like we talked about, an all-time moment. So she's going to be really hot right now. I think she's going to hopefully keep that momentum. I mean, we got this triple threat coming up at SummerSlam. I think for now we're both going to assume that she's keeping the title through that. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, getting back to what you talked about, it does feel like it leaves SmackDown and the WWE women's title in a weird spot because it's almost like, you don't want to say Tiffany's run through everyone, but it seems like everyone is, everyone's away doing something else. You've got Julia at the U.S. title. You've got, Charlotte and Alexa in this tag team. Tiffany's already beaten Nia. Now she's got Jade. Where do we go after that? I think is kind of, what you were alluding to. But we'll see. I'm sure they have something up their sleeve. But you're right. It does kind of suck some of that steam out of the SmackDown women's scene to inject it into the Raw scene. But we're saying this before we see SmackDown, so we'll see if we get any shots of life or anything in there.
Yeah, and this is true. And I was saying that only because, to me, I feel like Tiffany Stratton's WWE Women's Championship run has been good match after good match after good match with very little story investment. I don't know if I'm the only one that feels that way, but it seemed like whenever we talked about the WWE Women's Championship story, where this moves forward, the story never even actually centered, or the conversation anyway, never seemed to center around Tiffany. It seemed centered around what was going to happen during a cash-in moment at SummerSlam when Tiffany loses the title to Jade, right? Jade's story propagated a lot off of the strength of Naomi being able to carry the character work in that story. All of Jade's emotional resonance came from the attack that Naomi did to her, right? And the best emotional storytelling that we got from those three interacting, by the three I mean Jade, Naomi, and Bianca, was between Bianca and Naomi, right? So when you pluck Naomi out of that, right, Jade and Bianca ain't got no beef, right? Tiffany and Jade, listen, maybe this is a hot take, but I'm not particularly looking forward to it. I'm not particularly looking forward to that match. Not because I don't think it's going to be a decent match, right? Because I think Tiffany is great in the ring, and I think Jade, what she does well enough. I think she still appears to me like she's got some room to grow, particularly with how confident she feels being herself in the ring, to be able to kind of convey a bit more personality in some of the things that she delivers. But she's coming along. She's just not there yet. And so to me, it just seems like Tiffany Stratton's title run has just been plot point to plot point to plot point until the point when she loses that title. And it just makes me wonder, okay, with Naomi being plucked from this, has the juice, right, been squeezed out of that title scene? Because like you said, the places that are really popping in the women's division on SmackDown are really being tied up elsewhere, you know?
Yeah, I'm with you too. They're going to have to do something to kind of shoot some life back into this Tiffany and Jade scene without the Naomi and the Money in the Bank element coming in there. So we'll see what they do. I'm not saying they can't do it, but I'm kind of there with you. It lost a little steam for me, that's for sure.
I'll tell you what didn't lose steam. That fatal 4-way tag team women's match at Evolution, that was a great match. It was a great match. Let me just give my hats off to Zarya and Sol Ruka. I think that was a great main roster display of them as a tag team. Sol Ruka is the future. That woman can do things in the ring that are crazy. And as long as she stays healthy, man, she's got a career ahead of her. I think that Charlotte's look on SmackDown prior to the weekend, when Sol Ruka did some sort of like flippy move outside the ring onto a crowd of people, I think Charlotte was legitimately looking like, holy crap, that was crazy. And to get that type of look from someone as accomplished as Charlotte means something, right? So hats off to Zarya and Sol Ruka. I think that the women's tag team champions in Raquel and Roxanne, I think they're doing great. I'm loving Big Mama Cool. I think that whatever advice Kevin Nash gave her, she's taking it to heart. And she just looked in that match like, these people are annoying to me. Like, I'm a giant here. These flies that are flying around here are annoying. I'm going to swat them down. I'm going to destroy them. We're going to win this match. And then I'm going to toss your legs off of me because I'm through with you. And it works. It works for her. She needs to lean so much more into that. And it seems like she's doing it, right? Alexa and Charlotte, though, I think you were way more right than I anticipated.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it before I got my chance.
I think you're way more right.
I've been waiting on it. So
I think you're way more right than I anticipated there. I think that the angle that they may have been going with Charlotte and Alexa, it may have always been headed in that direction. I definitely think that, the sentiment around Charlotte has probably taken some serious help from the article that she wrote in the Players Tribune. It's Players Tribune, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I think that the spot where she pulls Alexa out of the way of Zarya's spear was great. Her holding Alexa, though, was what got me, right? If that Players Tribune article had never come out, I think you would have still at least got me had you played that angle that way, because it's the character work, right? And that's part of what started this podcast, right? Is that characters matter, that stories matter. And to tell these things in a way that invokes the feelings that you want to invoke are paramount to telling a great story and to hooking people and to investing people, particularly me. When she pulled her out the way, that was great. But to hold her in that way, to have Alexa look at her and without looking back at Alexa, just being like, I got you. That's growth. That is growth of the character of the queen, not caring about anybody else, starting to care, and Alexa softening her. And I thought it was just perfect. It's like these little jumps, right? These little nudges that peek past a character's flaws and starts to show something peeking through. Dude, that is prime character work. And it just works. When you tell a good story and you plot it out correctly, it works wonders. And it's what we were talking about. Whereas, you do her a disservice by not investing in her character. And all you got to do is put a little effort, right? A little bit of effort into fleshing her out past the character of the queen. And you'll get people right back on her side. And they are doing the work. And she's doing the work. And it's working out. And it makes me feel like you've got to do the Judgment Day versus Charlotte and Alexa for those tag championships at SummerSlam. And you got to put them on Charlotte and Alexa. You can't do all that work and not pay it off.
Yeah. I mean, I think, a couple weeks ago, it started to become clear that the angle they're going to take is not, honestly, you were the one that got me thinking this way, is that when you said, are they going to turn out to be a tag team? And then I was like, you know what? That makes sense. Maybe they are. And then once I started thinking there, I'm like, well, they're going to take this opportunity to build on this more sympathetic, real, whatever we want to call it, side with this Charlotte Flair character. And not all the stuff the company does or the talent does is in service of their character. But I thought the article that Charlotte wrote, and then like I was dead sure they were going to do, mentioned it on TV, and I'm like, this is just all leading to a fresh, renewed take on this Charlotte Flair character. And they've tried to make her a face before, but they've done it when she's involved with the title, which I think people were always going to reject, because that's the big criticism from a lot of people, is that, well, she's just around the title and she just wins too many titles and all that. So maybe let's try it again in a different way and remove that criticism from the equation. But I love where this is going. And everything you said, like, that spot in the match, what we got on SmackDown with Alexa wearing what her shirt say, like, she's not my friend or something.
Something like that.
On her shirt. Yeah. And just stuff like that is great. And like, or maybe it's like, I think maybe it's their shirt. That's what it is. Because I saw that. The shirt says, "We're not friends." And then it's got like their logos on the back. So it's like an Alexa and Charlotte shirt together that you can get on the shop. And, like Alexa's coming down and Charlotte's like throwing her, the fringe, the feathers, the boas, whatever we want to call it, on her sleeve, like in Alexa's face. And I think I'm loving it. And I'm glad a good amount of people are seemingly on board with this.
Yeah, I noticed that too with the with when they did their entrance together. What was that, on SmackDown?
Yeah.
When they did their entrance together, there was a bit of playful banter there between the two of them.
Yes.
I like the way that they did it though, right? It wasn't like we're cool or let me rephrase. They did it like we're not friends. We're cool, but still like, don't throw Lily at me. You know what I'm saying? Like don't throw Lily at me. It's like don't walk in front of me like that. And it led, in my mind, to the moment that happened at Evolution that we were talking about. It gave it way more gravity and way more weight, because you then saw Charlotte do something very altruistic for Alexa, right? And when Alexa gave her that look, and Charlotte didn't look back at her, but she was just kind of like patting her on the head and was like, I got you. That's all you need. You know what I'm saying? It's like you can slowly crack the Ice Queen's frame. You know what I mean? And it's like, that's what works. It's like, tell a story. And we've talked about this before, and particularly on our special episode, The Trial of Charlotte Flair, which if you haven't heard it, go back and listen. But we talked about it specifically there, right? Which is Charlotte needed angles. She needed layers. And you alluded to it earlier, which part of that criticism, which I didn't disagree with then and I don't disagree with now. Any story that you try to tell around Charlotte, at least prior to this, right? That you tried to tell around Charlotte always seemed to orbit the title. And whether you agree or disagree, you're going to draw criticism, do or undo, as long as she's orbiting the world title scene. And it's not to say that she shouldn't be a world champion, but like, you got to give people something to latch on to. You know what I'm saying? Besides her just being great in the ring and being champion, because that's going to wear thin. And sure enough, you start putting her in a situation where you start giving her these layers and this depth. And then you have the Player Tribune article, right? And then you further this thing with Alexa and herself, and people just latch onto it. It's almost like if you give people something to latch onto, they'll latch onto it. Like, it's not rocket science. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not rocket science. And I get the fact that like some of the criticism that was around her came from people who may have had less than above board reasons for not liking her. Fair. Put those people to the side, right? There were fair criticisms of that character. And like I said before, if it's the fault of WWE, that fault lies in the fact that you haven't given people anything to latch onto. You have not invested enough in this character to make people want to invest. And if they were smart, invest in a character. It will pay dividends, right? And sure enough, I swear, dude, I feel like people be listening to us talk on this podcast because it's like, if you just invest in this character, like we've been saying, people will latch on, right? If you build it, they will come. And
yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing.
And it's like they've taken the time to build this out and the people have showed up exactly like you wanted them to. I don't think the issue was ever actually with Charlotte. I think it was more so with the fact that WWE has a gem in Ashley Flair as an athlete, as a professional wrestler, right? And I think that they coasted way too heavy on how good she was in the ring, and they didn't take enough time to really build a character around her. And I think after a while, if you don't give anything character-wise for people to feed on, then they're just going to start chomping in on on what's left. And what's left is the person. What's left is the wrestler. And that's not fair. You got to give people something. And it's outside of her hands, like you said before. She may not have creative control like that. You know what I'm saying? To be able to dictate what her character is. So that falls on WWE to fix that. And it seems like they're doing that. So hats off to Charlotte and Alexa for taking this ball and running with it. Because listen, this could have gone sideways in a bajillion different ways. And, it takes two people to be committed to the bit to make it work. And they're making it work. And I think that WWE should take this momentum and ride it all the way into SummerSlam. Continue to tell a great story with the other half of that equation, which will be the Judgment Day, which, listen, they ain't missing with the Judgment Day. They seem to be landing that plane on the tarmac squarely every week. And, to transition a bit, this was no exception. Raquel and Roxanne are doing great together. We don't know what the timeline is for Liv coming back. But if we are moving into a program that's going to be Charlotte and Alexa versus the Judgment Day, we've got a lot of things going on and stories being told on both sides. You've got to start getting these two interacting, but they're on different shows, right? Yeah,
they are.
They're on different shows, and we don't have two different sets of women's tag team championships. So yeah, they're going to start interacting somehow. How do you even pull that off?
Just have one of them show up on the other show. Yeah, it's not that hard.
No, we don't have the brand split technically anymore.
It's there except when they need it not to be. Fair. This would be one of those things.
This would be one of those things. So do you think that you would have I think you probably have Charlotte and Alexa showing up on Raw.
Probably.
You know what I mean? That's what I would think, because like aside from them themselves, Alexa and Charlotte having each other, they ain't really got a whole lot going on SmackDown.
Like those two characters.
Yeah, I mean outside. I mean as them as a tag team.
Yeah, no, it's pretty much them. Yeah,
it's pretty much just them. Like they're not really having any type of story being told between that tag team and any other tag teams.
No, it's just the kind of the self-contained. You know.
Yeah.
Are they friends? Are they not?
Right.
Shirt says they're not. They probably are. But yeah.
Is this a gutting of SmackDown?
It's weird. It feels like, I mean, when you do this, obviously there's space for new talent, and yeah, but it feels weird. That's kind of what I was getting at when I kind of brought the conversation this direction with the Jade Tiffany and lack of Naomi stuff. It doesn't seem like there's a lot going on there on SmackDown, but we'll see. You know, they've got time to recover. We've got SmackDown this week. So.
I'm just like, it's weird. It's interesting to think about, right? Because
especially because on Raw you've got so much happening.
You've got so much going on. I mean, and just in general, right? Like you've got so much going on with the women's scene, right? And now you've got Naomi over there, right? Let's say Charlotte and Alexa start showing up more on Raw. And let's say they don't leave SmackDown, but they just start showing up more on Raw. You're still bringing more of the synergy energy onto Raw, right? We are almost hardly doing nothing with the Women's United States Championship. Julia has it, right? But the Intercontinental Women's Championship scene is boiling hot right now. And it seems like the U.S. title scene is puttering along. John Cena is the WWE champion, but because he's got limited dates and his story is pretty self-contained, right? He's showing up on whatever show WWE deems fit, right? So they don't even really have a main title that's specifically theirs apparently right now. Whereas the world championship scene is red hot right now. You know what I'm saying? Like everything is happening with the world championship scene. Even when you look at the tag team titles, right? So the tag team champs on Raw are, who just beat the New Day?
The Judgment Day. Come on.
Oh, yeah, right. I'm sorry. The Judgment Day. The Judgment Day story is so airtight right now with them having all the gold, with Finn's machinations to slowly destroy the Judgment Day, right? And you've got New Day still mourning the loss of their sweet, sweet championships and gifting wigs made of human hair, which is hard to get.
I had forgotten about that.
You know what I'm saying? It's like they're still doing great work on the peripheral of the tag team championship scene. Meanwhile, on SmackDown, the tag team champions are the Wyatt Six. And you did this by gutting the entire tag team division. You literally served them up to make the Wyatt Six even viable enough to be, champions that the fans would even want to see. And I don't even know how far that goes, because we've talked before about like angles and characters like these, where it's like you have to toe a really interesting line.
But they don't need those titles.
They don't need them.
That just annoyed me.
They don't
even want to talk
them.
about it that much.
and listen, that right there is just a hallmark of what it is that I'm saying, right? It's like, are we gutting SmackDown? Because it doesn't seem like there's really anything interesting happening on that show.
Yeah, I'm with you. It feels a little, it's almost like it's felt a little missable.
Yeah. It really has.
This week we've got Cody Rhodes and John Cena advertised. So let's heat it back up.
This is true. Now I want to toss this to you, Skeener, because
I'm ready to catch it.
I am a fan, but I know that you very much revere your tribal chief.
I do.
And the fact that we have this gauntlet match, it's Gunther sitting in the skybox, and it's Braun Breaker, and it's Jey Uso, and it's LA Knight, and it's CM Punk, and it's Penta. And when the dust settles and the smoke clears, CM Punk is going on to face Gunther at SummerSlam for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, we had from maybe the last 2 matches in that gauntlet, we had interference by the unnamed faction, right?
So our gauntlet matches, are they all going to be no disqualification now, or are we chalking that up as a Paul Heyman masterstroke at the last second? Or because they
You know
announced
what
that, and I'm like, really? But
I'm
there
chalking
you
it
go.
up to stupid because it makes no damn sense. It makes zero sense. Look, we're gonna fans of the show. Skeena and I are gonna take a slight little detour just for like 2 minutes. We'll be right back on. This is stupid. It makes zero sense, and it's stupid from that point that we've talked about before, right? With other things. If it's no DQ, I would have come out there in the first match with my homies in a steel chair. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah.
Like, you would have never had a fair shot. If I had a faction like that, I would have been the first person out there, Braun Breaker. I would have had a steel chair, a bat, and Bronson Reed out there the whole time. And Bronson's going to jump you the second you come out from the back. I'm going to hit you a few times with a steel chair, and we're going to pull some Hogan NWO type stuff through the entire gauntlet. And that's where it's going to go. It makes zero sense. And it boggles my mind sometimes when WWE has done this recently, because it's like, I mean, if you're going to explain this away with rules, you know what I'm saying? Then, I mean, come on, man. You need to define this better, because that's just dumb.
It's always happened in wrestling. I'm fine with it. I just thought it was odd. Like, just get all you needed to give me was like a 10-second segment where, before Braun Breaker goes out, Paul Heyman just goes, "Hey, I talked to Pierce. I got it to be no DQ." But I think it was just like announced, wasn't it?
I don't think it was announced at all. I think it just happened.
It was. No, it was. Because I remember hearing it, but it wasn't like, it was like the famous, that they did explain away, that like WrestleMania 17 is the famous one. Like, oh, this match is now no DQ for the WWF title. Well, it made sense because, obviously Vince McMahon did it for Stone Cold, but like, this was just out of nowhere. Like, just tell me it was Paul Heyman strong arm and Adam Pearce, and I'll get on board with it. But yeah, it was what it was.
I mean, here's my thing, right?
I don't think you needed it.
If you were going to interject Bronson Reed into this match, and you were only going to interject him with the last 2 participants, what I would have rather have had, Skeens, is when Jay Uso's music hit, have Jay not show up to the ring immediately, right? And then have it cut to backstage and Bronson just ran this dude through. You know what I'm saying? And then have Jay come to the ring on some, I can still go. And he come to the ring and now he's injured, right? It would have happened before the sanctioned match actually got started. And it wouldn't have lent to this idea that not only can you have interference, but Jay can come back out there later on and also get involved in the match. And why didn't Jay, when he came back out there, right, to help Punk, why didn't he super kick Breaker? Like the good guys are playing by the rules, but if the rules are no rules, then you could do whatever you wanted, particularly because Breaker just got to fall over you by quote unquote cheating, but it's within the rules. Like, there's so many things that don't make sense, right? That it's like, for somebody to say that I'm overthinking this, which I'm not saying you said that, right? But if someone were to say that I'm overthinking this, my response would be, WWE opened the door for me to overthink it. Like, consider the consequences of the decisions that you're making, and not that the consequences that people are going to overthink it, right? But the consequences that it don't make no damn sense. It makes no sense. If you make it make sense, the story will write itself, right? And not to say this holds anything up except this show, but the fact that you do it, sometimes it's just the nonsensical things in wrestling that we, as purveyors of the entertainment form, and we sign that social contract to avert our eyes to the ridiculous. So you have the interference, all these things happen, folks getting beat down, and then Roman's music hits, and whatever roof there was on that place disintegrated. And the OTC1 shows up, which I guess is the Model 2 version
like
B of Roman.
Yep.
I guess. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the 1 is for, but okay.
So, yeah, I mean, we knew he was coming back. I mean, we'd talked about that. Yet to be seen exactly what they do. I'm sure there's some sort of, assuming the Seth Rollins injury wasn't completely planned part of these stories. Stuff's moving around, but Roman Reigns was going to be there for a 2-night SummerSlam. Let's get him out there. Wonder if they go ahead and do they give us Roman Reigns and Braun Breaker? Do they give us Roman Reigns and CM Punk against Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed? Do they give us Roman Reigns and Jay? Seems cool with Jay, obviously. The Punk relationship, TBD, but I assume that's going to be an enemy of my enemy is my friend. But we still haven't gotten that Punk Reigns match, which is a big one. You got to do it at some point.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, look, he had a shirt that said it, needle mover. That's what Roman is. The needle moved, he's back, and let's see where they go with it.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Happy to have him back.
It's always nice to see Roman. It's always nice to see Roman. Now, I hope he's going to be on weekly programming and that we don't get him like this week and next week and then he takes a week off and comes back. I hope he's on every week until his angle is through. But when it comes to angle, honestly, let's first remember CM Punk versus Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. That's at SummerSlam, right? So
for sure.
I don't think that outside of interactions that maybe further a story down the line, I don't think you're going to have Roman and Punk interacting. In fact, I think the better.
Right. I guess practically Punk's not going to work 2 nights.
Right. I think the better story to tell there
is working both nights days.
I think the better story to tell there, honestly, and I don't think you have Roman both nights. I think you have Roman one night. He has his match, right? But I think what you do is a tag match, Roman and Jay versus Bronson and Braun. I think
I like that.
You know what I mean? Like, I think maybe you open a door, particularly if some of these adjustments that are being made have Roman involved with regards to like Seth's potential injury and him being out, right? This gives a great opening to do some great storytelling between Roman and Jay, right? Because they ain't seem to have fully resolved their issues. Like he helped them up, right? And I don't think that you would necessarily have beef per se, but Roman is the one person who never came around to congratulate Jay during his entire title run, right? Main event Jay Uso started with the bloodline. He's since taken off. He's become world champion. He beat Gunther. You know what I'm saying? And where was Roman? Roman was nowhere to be found. Everybody else gave Jay his flowers and was there when Jay needed him, right? Except Roman. Roman wasn't there when Jay could have used his help, right? And you could still have this story to tell with maybe a slightly arrogant Roman who's trying to figure out his way in this post 1,000-day champion, world, post losing his wise man, post the bloodline, right? And trying to, figure out where his place on things is. Yeah, he came out here to help Jay, but maybe Jay hasn't fully forgiven Roman. Maybe Jay, you know what I'm saying? Like, you've got some room.
There's so many threads and angles we can explore.
You got some rooms to play with here, right? Plus, you've still got Paul Heyman in the mix, and he can play into this thing because Roman and him have a lot of history, right? And he's still dealing with Seth's faction, and you still got Breaker and Bronson on the other side. And it's like you've got the mesh here, the makings for a really interesting story that you can build in the next 3 weeks, going into SummerSlam. And so I think that's why I said what I said at the top of this, which is I hope Roman's here for 3 weeks straight because we need him for this storytelling, particularly if this is a pivot because Seth is indeed injured, right? You need these storytelling beats to be here. And that would be a great angle, particularly because the rest of the people that would be around Jay right now are on the shelf, quote unquote. Sami Zayn, is on the shelf via Cross, which, by the way, him and Scarlett had a nice little promo segment in there. Nice little video vignette. But
yes, they did. I'm enjoying that. And that's a practice, and I'll just a quick aside. That's a practice they've started that I love. And what I'm referring to is even if someone doesn't have a huge live segment match appearance, just give them a 1-minute video promo, a pre-recorded package, something. Just keep them fresh in folks' mind. Yeah. And they don't have to be there. They don't have to be on TV having a 20-minute match or a 10-minute segment, but something. And it just keeps the character fresh, keeps the story moving. And they've seemed to do that. Everyone's not on TV every week, but if they're important, you'll probably hear their name or see their face at the very least.
Well, and that's old school. You know what I mean? Like, that's old school WWE. And it's something that they've kind of gone with and then gotten away from over and over the years, which is just a dedicated promo. You know what I mean? Not like a backstage interaction, not Kathy Kelly. That's her name, right? Kathy Kelly?
You've got Kathy Kelly and Jackie Richmond.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I didn't mess her name up, Kathy Kelly.
No, Kathy Kelly. Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like a Kathy or a Jackie backstage, interview. Can I get a word with you real quick? It's old school shooting promos.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it's a lost art form, and it's partly lost because WWE pivoted away from it. But I agree with you 1,000%. You don't have to always have a match on every show in order to get people over. As a matter of fact, sometimes just putting people in matches to have them on the show doesn't really serve much of anything, right?
Correct.
You know what I'm saying? And listen, case in point, we're about to get another match between Rusev and Sheamus. And I'm like, why?
Oh, I know.
You know what I'm saying?
When Rusev was backstage, like, they've already, like, look, I like Rusev, or maybe I want to like Rusev, and he was doing that promo. I'm like, wow, wonder where they're going next. And Sheamus came in screen, and I hate that I was like, oh, no.
Yep.
Like, look, they're both great. They're really good in the ring. I love Sheamus and that character when he's hitting and having fun with it backstage. But, like, I don't need to see that again.
No.
They didn't really make me care that much the first time.
No.
I don't want to see it again. Like,
this is what you do when you don't know what to do with someone.
Exactly.
And it's just very clear that they brought Rusev on. He was a get from AEW, and you have no idea what to do with him. And
right.
You know what I mean? Like you said, yes, Sheamus and Rusev have good matches, but we've seen Sheamus and Rusev so many times before, right? And mind you, they're good matches. They're not like barn burners. They're not these 5-star matches that just, invoke the awe and praise of the fans every time they watch. It's not Io and Rhea. So, you know what I mean? It's like they're going to run their course relatively quickly. And I feel like when you have a character...
Well, there's no stakes. There's no reason we care.
True.
There's no different angle with it.
True.
It doesn't seem like it's just, let's do it again, brother.
True.
All right.
And honestly, what is there to care about? Like,
right. They haven't given us, and I'm not saying that's their fault.
No.
But we've been given no reason to care. So I'm not at the point where I'm going to work my hardest to find a reason to if you don't give me one.
Dude, I really wanted, when Rusev came back, one, I was happy when they went with the whole Redeemer angle, because I think that's one of his stronger angles that he's had as a character, right? I was just hoping that you would put, I was just hoping you'd put Rusev in a position to where he comes in and like, dude, let's Goldberg treatment this guy. Like, he's worth it. He's a great talent. Let's put him in the position, maybe not like WCW early Goldberg, like he don't lose, but let's put him in a position where like he's a threat to somebody like Seth. He's a threat to somebody like Gunther. He's a threat to somebody like Roman because he's absolutely capable, right? And then maybe on this ascent where he's running roughshod through the division, that you have his old friend Sheamus step up to try to stop him. There's some stakes there. You know what I'm saying? There's a story you can play off of that, but you have him come in and destroy Tozawa.
Tozawa, yeah.
And what's his name? The guy that was with American Alpha, Alpha Academy. Oh, I can't think of his name right now. Big dude.
Oh, Otis?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Otis.
He destroys Otis.
I wasn't sure you were still, yeah.
And it's like, dude, you destroy jobbers.
Yeah, and the thing is, what's hurting this, I think, or these two characters, Sheamus and Rusev, is that they've done the opposite of what we've praised so many times, in that it seems like it's very segregated. Rusev and Sheamus don't get to talk to, interact, be seen anywhere near anyone else on this show.
Yes.
Except each other and Alpha Academy.
Right.
So, yeah. Like you said, could he have been a threat to Seth or anyone? But no. He's just mean to Alpha Academy.
Yeah.
Every week.
Yeah. And it just makes you seem like a bully in the kids at the kids table. And it's
which is fine, but it's not going to get me to care that much.
Right. If you as a performer are comfortable in that spot, then I'm happy for you. But if this is not what you came here for, I would not be mad if you were mad. But aside from that though, like I don't know what you do with him. But what?
I mean, I don't think the answer was do it again.
No, the answer was not run it back.
Yeah.
The answer was certainly not run it back. I wonder why you didn't put Rusev in like the Money in the Bank ladder match.
Yeah, just something.
Hell,
Andrade could be in it. No offense, Andrade. I know you're listening, but
bro, I swear you took the thought right out of my brain. And no offense to Andrade, and I know why you put him in the match because he's going to do some really cool stuff with the ladders.
Okay.
But man, it shows what your level of investment is in each performers. And even so much so that like when we talk about SmackDown and we talk about the pillaging that has happened over SmackDown and the exodus of interest, right? And then the lackluster performance of the tag team division on SmackDown, right? Currently the best part of it is Rey Fenix and Andrade. And I have to think that some of Andrade's energy behind his push right now is because of the fact that WWE has been putting him in front of the audience, not just in tag matches, but they put him in the Money in the Bank qualifiers and they put him in the Money in the Bank ladder match, right? Where he's on the same stage as Seth and LA Knight and you know what I'm saying? And Solo Sikoa. Like you put him on a pedestal and people are going to pay attention for as long as you continue to put a little, fan behind the flame. But Rusev, it's hard to not keep him in a jobber frame of mind when all you put him in is jobber situation.
I mean, I don't have much else to add because I just don't think much about it because they haven't made me care. Make me care and I'll care. As demonstrated on this show, we wax poetic and have lots of thoughts and are very verbose about lots of things. And the fact that I can't give you 10 words about this seems like that says enough in itself.
It does. And, it just makes you wonder sometimes about where WWE's priorities are, but I ain't going to get on that. All I'll say is WWE, I think you're doing a great job with the things that you're doing a great job with. I think that the people who you're investing in, you are really doing a good job. And the things that you're not investing in, boy, it's noticeable. Like you can tell where the money's going.
Yeah,
man. So what else happened this weekend? We can rapid fire some of these other things. So we still got a lot of stuff that happened on Evolution.
I thought Goldberg and Gunther was really good in its execution. It's about as good as you could have hoped for. Thought it was a cool moment to see Goldberg with some of his WCW friends and
WCW,
all that coming out with him for that last entrance. Loved getting his son involved and bringing that back into play. And I thought the way it went down was good. The speech getting cut off, like, look, that sucks for him. I get it from a perspective of like, look, it's TV. It is what it is. You're off when you're off. I get Goldberg's frustration there. Some of the other things he has said, I don't know if you've, paid much attention to that, is a little disappointing in a way, but I also, as a longtime Goldberg fan, have learned to live with that side of Goldberg. So
I know he did that interview with Ariel Helwani, but I have not watched it yet. And I know that I heard something about he's still got like a slight NDA that he can't say all the things he wants to say.
But this is like classic Goldberg shit.
Well, what did he say?
To me, it was like he's talking about but he's very vague, exactly like that. Like he's talking about like he's not happy, and I think he's referring mostly to his farewell speech getting cut off, and he's like, well, they wouldn't do that to Taker, they wouldn't do that to Cena. And I'm like, I get it, but also I get it. And also just like, man, come on. Don't do this, Goldberg. I love you. Don't make me dislike what you're doing here.
Yeah. So that part I did hear about, right? And I thought maybe there's something that I'd missed. So
No,
I
it's just he bitches sometimes, but I love him. And I'm not gonna love him any less just because he's bitching a little more. Like I
listen,
said,
I'm
I'm
gonna be
used to it.
honest with you. Okay.
I'm used
I
to it.
don't have anything against Goldberg. I like Goldberg. He was a part of my childhood too. But let me first not take anything away from how important he was to WCW, how important he was to the zeitgeist of professional wrestling, right? And how important of a part he is to the history and the lineage of professional wrestling, right? But for him to always have these negative sentiments about these things, it always rubs me the wrong way because, like, dude, you were greener than goose shit when you came into WCW and you got put on a platform and a pedestal to become the greatest thing WWE had made, right? But yet, during that entire time, you always had so much crap to talk about the criticisms surrounding you being green. But you were. That's not detracting of the performances that you're putting on, right? Or the legacy that you're leaving. But like you said, Goldberg's Goldberg. He's going Goldberg. So
Exactly.
I on one hand, it's like I accept that you are you, but that does not mean that because I accept you for being you, that I gotta like it. I just accept it. And so
Yeah,
I'm
that's
not
where I'm
telling you
at.
to change who you are, but I'm just like, dude, you say this, they wouldn't have done this to Taker or Cena. Well, listen, they wouldn't have done Taker and Cena's last match on Saturday night's main event. It would have been on a PLE. Now, if you think that your last match should have been on a PLE, okay, that's fine. But also understand the climate in which WWE is right now in their storytelling, right? Dude, this is a business that is bigger than you. It is bigger than Taker. It is bigger than Cena, right? And right now, their emphasis is on storytelling. They're trying to tell these very intricate and elaborate stories. This happening in Atlanta with you having your family and your friends around, I think was a great send-off. Definitely maybe there was some adjustments that were made to that match, based on things that happened earlier in the night. Who knows? But I think you had a good match for the match that you had, for the capabilities that you were able, the things that you were able to do, things that you were capable of doing, right? I think you told a great angle with overselling the knee. I legitimately thought his knee was like glass, right? But he sold that very well. He played it up very well. And when I saw him moving around without that brace, I was like, oh, I got worked. That was nice, right? But the match kind of ended a bit abruptly. Like there wasn't a whole lot of fanfare to it. And like we said before in
It
the
seems like I will say it seems like that's almost like a Gunther thing, which I like because it makes him different.
sure.
Like it's not big setup. Here's your Gunther spots. He's gonna do his taunt. The guy's gonna get up, get his finish. He just ends it. He just physically dominant, no frills, ends it.
I
I
agree.
actually kind of like that. But go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt
No,
you.
no, you're cool. No, I don't disagree with you. And I think maybe that's not the type of match that Goldberg wanted, right? And I understand that. But at the same time, I'll say this. Sometimes it feels like Bill Goldberg sees himself and then he sees the wrestling industry. He sees the business after himself versus seeing the business first and then him being a part of that business. And so when a match is told in a way that is best for business, right? To, dig up that old term, best for the storytelling arc, best for the guy who's on top right now. It seems like that's an approach that one would take when they're putting the business before themselves. It seems sometimes like Bill Goldberg wants things to happen the way Bill Goldberg wants them to happen because he puts himself before the business. He'll do business. He'll do the work. He'll take the fall. He's not going to be that person where it's like, yo, I'm not going to get pinned by this guy. I'm not going to do the work for this guy. I'm not going to sell for this guy. I think he'll do the job, but then he'll complain the whole time afterwards. And,
Yeah.
that's Goldberg. But it's like you also open the door to this type of criticism when this is what you choose to do. And if I'm being honest, his match with Gunther was not the 5-star 6.5 in the Tokyo Dome, if you're Dave Meltzer type match. It was never going to be, right? But I think knowing that Bill Goldberg and the things that he has to say, the criticisms that he has to say, and just Goldberg being Goldberg is going to overshadow his retirement match. And I think that that's what people are going to talk about more than his last match in Atlanta with his family and his friends present against the World Heavyweight Champion and the good match that it was. I think they're going to be talking more about his complaints with WWE, and it's just going to be remembered that way. He's going to be remembered for his time in WCW, his unprecedented streak, right? And his issues that he's had on again, off again over the years with WWE. And in his last match is going to be him losing to Gunther and complaining about it.
Which is fitting, poetic to me.
Actually, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Like it's apropos because it's Goldberg.
Yeah.
So actually, you know what?
But I'll give you this one more thing, and we can do it quick.
Okay.
Jelly Roll, Logan Paul, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Okay, so obviously this is a tag match.
Correct.
Thumbs up. I'll give it a thumbs up because from everything that I hear, Jelly Roll is not approaching this like your typical celebrity who likes wrestling. That's not to say that Jelly Roll is going to put his like country tour on hold to do a run in WWE, but
maybe he will.
Maybe, but I could see this more so like a Bad Bunny, right? Like Bad Bunny gets in the ring and you can tell that he's been spending the last 3 or 4 months at the PC. You know what I'm saying? And that he's been really putting time in here. And, you know, Triple H alluded to this at the press conference, you know, where he's talking about his weight loss journey and how that weight loss journey started at the Performance Center behind the premise of him wanting to do something with WWE, but wanting to do it the best that he could. And, you know, the best exercise that one could do if you're trying to get healthy is the one that you're going to do. Right. So if that is the impetus behind Jelly Roll getting himself in the shape that he wants to be in, one that is going to be best for his overall health, then hey, my hat's off. Go after it, bro. The match I think is going to be good because Randy's good, because Drew is good, because Logan is good, and because they all can tell a story character-wise. And I think Jelly Roll is legitimately invested. I loved that match with Drew versus Orton. I loved it because I thought that the interference was right on time. I thought that Jelly Roll's interaction with Logan outside the ring was great. I thought that Drew, with the angle of like, you are not a wrestler. Don't you be putting your hands on a wrestler. And he's talking about Logan Paul. And Logan's a wrestler.
Yeah, like that's
right?
So good.
Logan's a wrestler, but like, you know, the sentiment behind Logan is sketchy with some people, right? But he's taking this stance.
I think why this works so well.
Yeah, it's why it works, you know. And then it's like that Claymore that he gave, that Claymore that Drew gave to Jelly Roll in the ring, right? I want to say it was stiff because we're kicking people in the head, so it's not that stiff, but it looked like a move that was delivered and received by people who know what they're doing, right? Jelly Roll received that really well. He sold it really well. And then when I found out he spent all the time in the PC, I was like, oh, that makes sense now because he's actually trying to do this and do it well. And so I think that the match is going to probably be really fun. I think that it's, you know, you're going to rely on Logan for your spot monkey moments, and Randy and Drew are going to tell a great story. And I think that Jelly Roll is going to be there and he's going to contribute what he can contribute. And it's going to be a fun night to fill in 2 whole freaking nights of SummerSlam.
Yep. I'm right there with you. I think it's going to be fun. And look, hey, if Randy Orton's cool with it, I think that's a sign that everyone should be like, you know what? Yeah, this is probably going to be done the right way. This probably isn't going to disrespect the business or anything like that. It's going to be good. I'm looking forward to it.
Agreed. I think it's going to be a great match. Like you said, I totally 1,000% agree. If Randy and Drew are down and everybody's happy, you know what I mean? Then, hey, then look, let's do it. As long as it's not like a Johnny Knoxville type situation or as much as I love Snoop, right? Snoop is not going to the PC every week to train.
No, didn't seem like he was.
You know what I'm saying? So, as long as it's not one of those situations, man, I'm all good, because wrestling is all about these types of things, and it's always been a part of it. It always will be. And as long as people come into the business or the industry or the ring and they really want to put their best foot forward, I'm welcoming until you give me reason to think otherwise.
Right. Can't disagree. I'm there. Except I'm pretty welcoming to all. I think, more positive. Anytime, I just think it's fun. It's just, sometimes this can just be fun. And people don't need to go in and do it. Gatekeeping a business as fans that we're not even a part of, that we're just fans of.
No, I don't disagree. I guess I just think that in the past, there have been obviously some interesting, maybe controversial decisions that WWE made with regards to matches that they put on, that I get it. I ain't hating. I'm just saying, it's like, history usually is the dictator of what was good and what was not, right? And it may have been a good idea at the time to put for WCW, put the title on what was it?
David
Arquette, right? But history looks back on that and they typically frown on it. And, the Johnny Knoxville match was fun and Sammy had a good time with it. And listen, you had a good time with it. You had a good time with it. But history looks back on that match and they're like, eh. And I mean, that's all I'm saying. I'm genuinely open to these things. I just want to see a good match. I just want to see an interesting and entertaining product. And it's like, when it's not entertaining, I'm not going to give you any more or less of a pass than I would give to the professional wrestlers that are in the business. And if we can talk about Sheamus and Rusev being just not interesting and you're not giving me a reason to be interested, I'm not going to give you a pass because you're Jelly Roll or Johnny Knoxville. If you're going to come in the ring, make it interesting. Because if it's interesting and it's fun, it's cool. And if it's not, I'm going to sit here on this podcast. I'm going to tell you, I thought that match was crap. It wasn't good. Not interesting.
All right. I'll give you, and we'll get out of here after this, because I know we keep people in this lounge a long time, but this will make for a good social media question that our listeners can weigh in on.
All right.
Quickly. Least favorite celebrity appearance in WWE history?
Ooh. Gosh, it makes me have to think. It makes you have to think about who those celebrities were.
Well, how about if you want time to think, you can come back with an answer at the beginning of next week.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'll pose it to the listeners. But for me, it's LeVar Ball and the Ball family. Doesn't get worse than that.
Oh, I remember that.
Because I don't think they got it. I think it was a joke to them, and that's how they acted.
I do kind of remember that. I do remember that. So, hey, let's do this. Put up a poll on the Lariat Lounge Instagram, and think of maybe like 3 or 4 options for celebrities.
The most infamous ones, and let's let the audience, decide, for themselves who they feel like is, was the most egregious of offenders. And I'll pick from those 4 because I'm having a hard time remembering them all. Like, I have recency bias with a lot of things. And so, and not in this way that typically where it's like the thing that I saw last is the thing I like the most. It's more so like when it goes past a certain date, my memory starts to fall off. And I'll remember plot points, but not details, which is probably most humans. But anyway, put the poll up and let's vote on that. Let's let the listeners weigh in and tell us what you all think was the most egregious celebrity contribution to WWE programming or wrestling programming, depends on where you pull your sources from. But yeah, dude, the Ball one, now I think about it, that was rough. Well, it was not good.
It was not good. It was not good. But what is good is the Lariat Lounge. What is good is that you all tune in and you listen to us talk about the world of wrestling that we all are experiencing and loving or trudging through together all at the same time. It's one of my highlights of the week is to get up here with my good friend to talk about wrestling and to know that our friends out there are listening, that they're enjoying the podcast. I was perusing through the Lariat Lounge post on Facebook the other day, and I was commenting with some of the people who had commented on some of the stuff. Sorry, I'm like 2 or 3 weeks late, but you know, it is what it is. But we appreciate you guys. We love you interacting, and there's a ton of places for you to interact with us that are outside of Facebook. Obviously, Skeener tells you at the top of the show, and he's about to tell you again right now where you can reach us at the end of the show.
You're going to find that great poll at the Lariat Lounge podcast on Instagram. If you have any thoughts you want to tell us, be it about your least favorite celebrity appearance, anything else on the show, anything else going on in wrestling, hit us up at the Lariat Lounge at gmail.com. And as you know, we're coming at you every week, wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, all those good places. We'd love everyone to come into the lounge. We love having you here. So please reach out, get involved.
Absolutely, guys. You know where to reach us. And listen, we do love you being here. And I have a special assignment for you if you're listening to this episode. Based on this past weekend's Evolution and the incredible match that was Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky for the Women's World Championship, I just want you all to give me your opinion. Is this a contender for match of the year? That match really landed with me. I enjoyed it from start to finish, and I believe that there's a lot of us out there who felt that way. Do you think that this is a contender for match of the year? Let us know in the socials. Let us know via email. Hit me up. Let us know what you're thinking, because I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. And if you hit us up and let us know what you're thinking, we'll read out some of those comments on next week's episode. This sounds like a deal. Show up. From your host, Everson Godfrey, your co-host, Andrew Skeens, this has been another edition of the Lariat Lounge. Please watch yourself on the way out.